Hey everyone, welcome to the monthly market update. This month, even though it's February, we're going to look at what did the first month of 2024 look like, and can we make any predictions for the rest of the year from that? So again, this is a bit longer than my weekly market videos. This is a much deeper analysis into the market since we're looking at a whole month's worth of data. So I hope you enjoy. What do you say we go ahead and get started so I don't take up too much of your time? All right, so let's just give you a quick rundown of the agenda. We're going to look at mortgage rates, where they're at currently, and then we're going to do the local market update. So again, I do want to keep this rather short. The quarterly ones that Josh and I do, definitely get up to be 30 minutes or so, but I want to give you just kind of a quick rundown, especially since we only have 1 month to look at so far this year, of just kind of where things are. So let's move into it. So 2024 January stats. First, let's look at the mortgage market. So this was pulled this morning. This is where rates are currently. They have pushed up above 7%, just barely. But if you look at this next graph, you can see there hasn't been a whole lot of movement in rates so far this year. So don't know where those are going to go. Definitely didn't get good news on the inflation report this past week, which did inch the mortgage rates up a little higher. But we're just going to have to keep an eye on it. And the interesting thing is, why am I a real estate agent talking about mortgage rates? Well, because right now the real estate market is tied to where mortgage rates are. So, many years ago when I got started into it, it was a good idea to kind of know where mortgage rates were, but it really didn't matter because the market was the market. Well, now the two are very well intertwined since we had the extreme low mortgage rate environment a couple years ago, and that is putting as those mortgage rates flex up and flex down, that really determines buyer demand right now. So that's why I'm talking about. I am not an expert. If you want to know more an in-depth analysis of mortgage rates and where they might be going or what they might be doing, talk to a mortgage advisor, talk to Josh, Prove It with Movement Mortgage, and they can give you a much more deeper analysis of that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the local real estate market. So January was kind of a mixed bag, and here's what I mean. So if we look at the number of active listings on the market, you can see we actually started out the year with more listings on the market than we have in the past 3 years, but still well below 2020 and about half of where we were starting out 2019. Now, if we look at the number of sold listings, you can see that's right about where we were last year, which is well below any of the previous years. So that's tracking about in line with last year. If we look at pending listings, as far as for the entire month of January, we saw right in line with about 2020 numbers. So again, kind of returning back to normal as far as buyer demand. So that's looking more in line with 2020, 2019, but it's above last year. So, we'll have to see where that goes. If we look at the number of new listings, this is really the hamper on the market right now. You can see a number of new listings are way down. So not as many people are putting their homes up for sale as would be typical. You can see you go all the way back to 2022 to get a similar January. But if you look at 2019 or 2020 or even 2023 last year and 2021, all of those, we started out the year with much more listings coming on the market, which is why if you watch my weekly ones, you can see that we saw a weekly spike in pendings, which has brought the active listing count down so far in February. So February is going to be really interesting to look at. Look at the average sales price, not much change from January of last year. You can see we were much higher last month, so there was a big dip from month to month. But again, this is average. This is a calculated number, so that means we could have had a lot of lower priced sales in January to push that average down. Or if you want to look at it this way, less higher price sales. Depends on where you're going. But you can see still over 60% higher sales price than in 2020. So that's a huge gain in just 4 short years. Now this, I feel like, gives you a much better idea. This is monthly home price appreciation. This is the median price of each month compared to the previous year. And I actually added the average and median both on this slide so that so I could give you a better perspective. So you can see, yeah, January, the average wasn't much higher than January of 2023, but you can see the median has moved up, which means basically the entire market is continuing to shift upward. So there might have been fewer high price sales or more lower price sales in January, but as far as the momentum of the entire market, looks like it's still moving up. So prices look like they're still moving up and improving. Now this is a new graph that I wanted to show you because, as you can see, active listings were higher, sales were down, pendings were kind of in line. So what does all that mean? Well, this is a total listing count. So this is if you add up the number of active listings in a month with the number of pending listings in a month and the number of sold listings in a month, it kind of gives you a total count of all the listings that occurred during the month. Now, new listings are not included because that number kind of gets absorbed into either active or pending. So, and there is a little bit of fluff in here too, because a house could have been both active and pending in that month. But if we continue to use that statistic, it gives us a really good idea what's the overall market picture look like. And if we do that, you can see that if you count all of those listings together, we're right in line with where we've been the last 3 years. So we're still nowhere near 2020 or 2019 or years prior to that, but we're kind of where we're in a low inventory environment. That's total inventory. So that lack of inventory is hampering sales because that number, as you can see on this, that total listing count is not much changed. It's just the numbers are shifting between active, sold, and pending, but the overall number doesn't seem to be moving much. So not a huge change in the inventory total inventory count, total listing count for our area from the previous 3 years. Again, we're only looking at 1 month, so we'll have to see how that goes as we track this new statistic throughout the rest of the year. But I find it helpful, especially when the last 6 months to 8 months, 9 months or so, we've kind of seen actives up, solds down, solds up, actives down, pendings up, pendings down. Well, how does that all relate together? Well, if you add it all together, that's how you get, I think, a better correlation to look at. So between those three numbers, we're still seeing that we just don't have a lot of inventory in our market. So final thoughts. Again, I told you I was going to try to make this one a little shorter than most. Mortgage rates may be less volatile this year. It really just depends. Nobody controls the economy. Well, maybe. Depends on who you talk to. But I don't control the economy. So we're going to have to see really what happens, because we thought inflation was under control towards the end of the last year, but maybe it is, maybe it's not. All that plays into the mortgage rate market. Though most analysts are predicting that mortgage rates should end the year lower than they started. But if you remember last year, the predictions that the analysts had at the beginning of the year did not prove true at the end of the year. So take that for what it's worth. So let's take the wait and see approach, shall we? Home prices in our local market will continue to climb, and that is simply due to a continued low inventory environment. So we don't have enough homes to get those things to move those numbers up anymore, which is going to put downward pressure on prices. So low inventory, upward pressure on prices, that's where we're at. The number of homes sold may have returned to somewhat normal levels. So buyer demand may have returned to somewhat normal levels, but what we need is lower than normal levels to start making those inventory gains. So again, not much. It's not really making a huge change, even though sales have kind of returned to a more normal pace, or should I say, prior to COVID type pace. However, the one thing I will say, and I will continue to say, if we for some reason we see a big drop in mortgage rates at any point in time this year, whether that's a short-term or longer-term drop, that will bring more buyers out on the market and could create another buyer frenzy and an extreme lack of inventory and an extreme upward pressure on prices. Even the small increments bring more. Every time the rates drop, that more buyers are eligible to purchase homes. So again, if there's a big drop, even for a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month, maybe a few months, then you're going to see a lot of activity happen in a short period of time. So those are the final thoughts, and that's really it for this monthly market update. I hope that you find this information helpful. If you have more specific questions about a specific town, city, or if you want to look at land sales or condo sales, just reach out or put a question down there in the comments, and I'll be glad to answer that question for you. Obviously, if I wanted to go over everything, every major town and city in the area, county statistics and all that kind of stuff, it would make these really long and probably really boring. So I wanted to get you a good general picture of where the local market's at without going totally crazy. So again, if you have specific questions, just reach out. Again, I'm Jay Cottrell with LPT Realty here in the Tri-Cities, and I really hope that I have earned your business through these. I hope you know that I study the market, that I really get down and dirty with my clients, so to speak, and walk them through the entire process so they know everything that's going to happen from the start to finish, whether they're buying a home or selling a home. I really try to mitigate the amount of surprises that can happen. There can always be a surprise or two, but even those ones I've well prepared my clients for. So I really hope that if you're thinking of buying or selling a home, that you would think of me and reach out to me, and we can sit down and walk through that process. So that's it for this month. We will see you next month.